What's going on, everybody? So I hope you enjoyed this coming video that you're going to watch right now. That's why you're sitting here. Today we're going to the 7th annual Flag Day Second Amendment rally in central Massachusetts. So I know we're not really doing anything right now. We're just kind of giving a tour of my apartment. So next time you're going to see me, you're going to see me at the rally. But stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy. Alright guys, so we are at the 7th annual Flag Day Second Amendment rally. Just kind of signed in. Great patriots at the gate loading people in, guys on bikes coming in. So let's do a little vlog style and hope you enjoy the rally today. Alrighty. Dope ass Jeep.
Oh, okay. You don't want anybody to know about it. And you know we all have those. They're all very personal. They're all there. What do? We try to hide them. Jerry, right? Jim? God knows those Jim. But yet God will look. I know what it is. I have.
That 50 cal though.
Here's where I want you to go. That you can expect me to be. Right? Is that what it's about? Your life, your family's life, your kid's life, your wife's life, maybe out in the public. You're protecting yourself from somebody like that. You have thought about what people have told me.
So this rally's actually been pretty dope. I just met Jared from Guns and Gadgets. He's actually
what are you doing? You're preparing for something that might happen.
So it's pretty dope. Let's keep going.
We're all gonna die someday.
I was involved in Republican politics in our local RTC. I had revived it. Got a few of my friends in town on board. One of them, Bill Gunn, you might remember, a roofer, joined our RTC, was inspired to try to do something to save our republic and ran for U.S. Congress. Because John Olver to spend over $2 million defending his seat, and this roofer got 35% of the vote. And he had two enemies. He had the Democrat Party and the Republican Party. There's way too much liberty and free thinking for their liking, so he had two enemies. And still the people came out 35%. So we wanted to do a fundraiser, and we said we're going to do a Second Amendment rally. And we started the plan. And our Rhino State Committee woman, Janet Garon, and we're going to be naming names today, by the way. All right, Janet Garon, infamous Rhino, said, "What about Scott Brown? What about you know, the chairman, Ron Kaufman?" And I said, "Well, I'm sorry, Janet, this is not a Rhino Fest. This is a Second Amendment rally. We're going to put Second Amendment speakers and people that are known for their advocacy of the Second Amendment up there on that speaker's agenda." And boy, you'd think I peed right in their Cheerios. They were not happy with me about that. So they went out and pretty much told all the Republicans, don't go to their event, don't go to their fundraiser. And they didn't go themselves. And we had about 250 or so people at that first one. And about a month or two after the event, out comes the announcement for the 2nd annual Flag Day Second Amendment rally over in Sturbridge. And they had hosted a great big speakers list, chock full of rhinos. Well, I sent one of my buddies over there about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they had 7 people in attendance. Now their Second Amendment rally goes, stuff full of politicians, you know, career politicians and candidates. But you know, the people we've been lied to, that we've heard every campaign promise under the sun. You know, we cannot avoid turning on our television sets without hearing their stories. So we recaptured the event, and from year number 3 on, we made sure the rhinos were not in control, and that the patriots were. That we're going to celebrate the 2nd, we invite all of the candidates to come. I saw there's a few here. There's some Trump supporters here. I saw Dr. Shiva's setting up. He's running for U.S. Senate. He's setting up in the front. We always encourage. In fact, we usually invite our elected officials to come and sit down and listen. For once, listen and maybe learn. So we're never going to break trend with that. We're going to have the best of the best. I know this rally isn't quite what it usually is. We're usually a little more polished. We got a lot of national and celebrity speakers that are typically on the agenda. But with this whole COVID 1984 thing going on, we didn't think the public was quite ready yet. There's still a lot of scared bunnies out there. We still have businesses and individuals listening to executive orders that are directives to state agencies. And people are afraid, but I was contacted pretty early on, said we can't knuckle under, Dave. We have got to press forward. We've got to advocate for the second, regardless of policies and whims from Bacon Hill. So they got me. They don't have to twist my arm too hard to engage me in civil disobedience these days. So yeah, here we are. Here we are celebrating the Second Amendment. And the good news is, I'm sorry our national people aren't here. They're coming. They're coming in the fall. None of them have bailed out on us. But you really got the best of the best. My open conspiracy has always been that I get these celebrities in just to get the numbers in here so that I can hook you up with people like Jared Yanis, with Chris Pinto, all right, with Hal Shurtleff of Camp Constitution. All right, we got the 2A attorney right here in Massachusetts, Andrew Kuchar, you're going to be hearing from today. All right, these are the people I want to put you in contact with. All right, as we leave our titles and our group names at the door and we meet under this tent and on this property, we are all patriots. And I want these guys to put you to work. So please, before you leave today, make sure that you are signed up on Chris Pinto and Mass Gun Rights. All right, he's here because he is no compromise. That's why he's here. Jared Yanis has got hundreds of thousands of people across this country tune into him every day. You have him here under this tent. I hope you shake his hand, get subscribed to his channel, all right, and be hooked up with this information. We have got to fight this stuff and fight hard. So rest assured, I will never allow the establishment politicians to wrestle creative control of this rally away from us. We gave them one chance. That was year number 2, and they garnished 7 people, all right, and most of them with their own speakers. All right, so I think we're going to stick with a plan that works, and we're going to focus on the Second Amendment, and thank you all for coming to celebrate with us this year. We're going to jump into the historical part of this. This is a Flag Day Second Amendment rally. It's always on the weekend of Flag Day, and we want to make sure that we maintain that historical part of this. And for that, there's really only a couple of people that come to mind. Next guest, we are represented again by Gun Owners of America. Very, very happy to have them on board, and we've got some local talent just north of us up in New Hampshire. I'd like to welcome up to the stage Mr. Alan Rice, Gun Owners of America.
Thank you, Dave. I want to thank Dave, first of all, for putting this all together for 7th year in a row and inviting GOA to participate. We really appreciate it. And of course, I want to thank the Century Sportsman's Club for, again, hosting it. And I want to thank God that the weather cooperated today. So no rain, no cold, no snow, so that's a good thing. I had a few things I want to say, but I'm going to say something first that Dave kind of sparked me when he talked about compromise and no compromise. Lots of times everybody in gun advocacy talks about no compromise, and they figure if they killed an anti-gun bill and they got an amendment to make it less bad, since it's less bad, they didn't compromise. So compromise, in our mind, is when we don't give up anything when we get something. But when we compromise and we lose less today so we can lose more tomorrow, that's not a compromise. I actually thought I made a mistake one time, but it turned out I didn't. So I was up in New Hampshire. We were working on some legislation to decriminalize the carrying of loaded rifles in cars. The original bill got gutted and replaced with a useless bill that we just wanted to kill. Gets to the Senate, and a state senator is texting me from the floor. He says, hey, I can get you back most of what you wanted. It would be loaded rifles in a car as long as it's not in the passenger compartment. I didn't have time to call legal counsel. I didn't have time to call my boss. I had to make a yes or no on the spot. I told him to run it. So he ran it, and it passed the Senate. The House wouldn't agree to it. It was too pro-gun for the House. After I get all done, I'm reading the roll calls, which didn't take very long because we only have 24 senators. It's our House that's big. I called my boss. I said, hey, Eric, did I mess up? I said, I just agreed to loaded rifles, but anywhere except the passenger compartment. He goes, no, that's a good compromise because we gave up nothing and we didn't have any way to carry a loaded rifle in a car before, so that's okay. That's a good compromise. A bad compromise is when they want to ban 30-round magazines and you make a deal that, well, maybe you just ban anything over 20 and we can keep the 20s and we'll ban the 30s. Yeah, that's bad. We don't want to do that. So everybody likes to throw these words around, and Dave got me thinking when he was doing the introduction about, adding some clarity to that. So we don't like to compromise because there are no ifs, ands, or buts in the Constitution, and we've stood by that for 45 years, and we're gonna keep going with that. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. So it's been a tough time in America with the Wuhan COVID, China flu. I don't know what we're calling it. I call it China virus. I think they're supposed to call it COVID-19. And in the middle of all this, the anti-gun left has been as busy as ever because, as Rahm Emanuel said, they're not going to let a crisis go to waste. So we have people dying. It is a real illness. People are sick and dying. We lost a lot of Americans, a lot of people around the world. So it is a crisis. But the people on the left are using the death of Americans as an excuse to restrict freedom and access to firearms. I think it's unfortunate that they're doing that. I don't often agree with Debbie Wasserman Schultz down in South Florida, but she was right. She was right when she said you can't shoot the virus. But she's wrong when she says you don't need a gun because of the virus. You do need a gun, or 2 or 3 or 4, because police departments are not responding, and the ones who are have slower response times. And it's long settled case law in the United States that a private person cannot sue the police department if they do not prevent a crime or an attack or a murder. So you're on your own to protect yourself, and the best way to do it is a firearm. That's the great equalizer. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz is right. You can't shoot the virus, but you can sure shoot the person who wants to hurt you and take advantage of a bad situation when they know the police are not going to respond. And they used the crisis right here in Massachusetts. You had Governor Charlie Baker and Attorney General Maura Healey. They didn't waste too much time. It wasn't weeks, it was days. It was days when they jumped on this and said, you know what, we're gonna shut down the Commonwealth, and we're not going to designate gun stores essential business. I applaud the gun stores that kept open. I think there was only a couple. And they did the right thing. You know, they did what they felt they had to do for their business, for their customers, for their employees. But the governor and the attorney general used this pandemic to trample our God-given rights, saying gun stores are not essential. But that wasn't even enough for them. They didn't stop there. They set in process a situation where a gun dealer, and most of them are small businesses. For every Bass Pro, there's probably 100 mom and pop gun stores. They said you can't apply or receive any of the federal government relief money. Now, I'm not going to get into a debate on government spending. It's not what we're here for. But think about this for a minute. They shut them down when they wanted to stay open and do business. The government set up a process to help small mom and pop businesses that were forced out of business because of COVID-19, but they said, no, you can't have that because we don't agree with the product you sell. Think about that. Because the product they sell is disfavored by the governor and the attorney general, they hit them on both sides. And that is absolutely not acceptable. Gun Owners of America, we jumped into action. I want to recognize Andrew Kuchar. I just met him for the first time 5 minutes ago. He was our local attorney. There were several other plaintiffs on the case, and I'm not naming them because if I forget one, someone's going to get angry. So I don't want to name anybody. But Andrew, Attorney Kuchar, was our local counsel, and we filed an action in federal court here in Massachusetts. Everybody knows litigation is costly and slow, and when you think you can't get any slower, it slows down some more. But things did work out. The federal court issued an injunction. The gun stores were open. They were open with conditions that we don't agree with, but they were at least open. And our suit, there was another lawsuit in the Commonwealth, but what made ours different is we named the Attorney General as a defendant, which was proper because she's the chief law enforcement officer of the state, and she's elected statewide. In some states, the Attorney General is appointed by the governor and confirmed by the Senate. You could say they're a puppet. I think she's the puppeteer and Charlie Baker's the puppet, but she is elected statewide. So she was named as a defendant, and we also named ranges. Because what good is buying a gun if you don't have a place to go practice and learn how to use it? So we did both. We named the gun stores and the ranges. Once we won on the gun stores, the governor saw the writing on the wall and he relented and let the ranges open. I'm not privy to his private conversations with Maura Healey, but I don't think she agreed with him. She doesn't confide in me, but I don't think she agreed with him. We needed to do the same thing in several other states. We have been spending a lot of resources on litigation across the country. We sent cease and desist letters to New Mexico, Washington, Maryland, and New York State. And we urged the Trump administration to designate gun dealers and manufacturers as essential, which they did. That action directly forced Thank you. I appreciate that. The Trump administration's action designating gun stores and manufacturers as essential directly forced New Jersey's anti-gun governor to allow gun stores in that state to open for business. I want to give you guys a little bit of a pep talk. I know Massachusetts has some tough laws. We all disagree with them. New Jersey leaves Massachusetts in smoke. There's plenty of everyday regular people who can walk around and carry loaded guns legally in Massachusetts. That doesn't happen in New Jersey. And I could give you a lengthy list of other stuff. So we got a lot to fix in Massachusetts, but I want to give you a morale boost and let you know there are states that are a lot worse, and New Jersey is one of them. But they did open the gun stores. We did sue in Virginia to open gun ranges, and we won that. Sending a letter to Maryland was enough to urge the governor to open ranges. And Governor Hogan down in Maryland issued an executive order explicitly naming shooting ranges and businesses that can open to the public. So I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, but I mean, an outdoor range, they say that the virus doesn't do well in warm weather. Come on. I think it was an excuse to close ranges that they didn't like in the first place. In North Carolina, a lot of counties and cities use stay-at-home orders to shut down gun stores and stop issuing gun licenses. We work very closely with a group in North Carolina called Grassroots Gun Rights North Carolina, and we got together with them and we took some action. We sent some letters pretty much telling these officials, we're going to sue you if you don't allow these gun-related businesses to open. The fact that we'd already filed in Virginia and we'd already filed in Massachusetts, I think North Carolina considered that, and the offending counties and cities were treated, and they were all open again. Pennsylvania, people think of Pennsylvania as a nominally pro-gun state. It's a shall-issue concealed carry state. It's a $20 license for 5 years. You can pretty much own any gun you want. There's no magazine limits. But in pro-gun Pennsylvania, you had sheriffs refusing to issue licenses to carry firearms because of China flu. We sent a letter to every sheriff in the state because we weren't sure who was issuing and who wasn't. We'd get a report on Monday that Lackawanna County was issuing, and then they weren't, and then Center County always issued. But we'd hear about other counties, and we just figured, you know what, we'll write them all and then we won't miss anybody. We put a lot of pressure on the sheriffs, and one sheriff said we got a lot of blowback from people, and that's because we sent multiple action alerts into the state. I don't know if any of you get our alerts. I'm sure somebody must. You can go to gunowners.org. You can sign up for our alerts. They won't cost you anything. We're grassroots centered. We give you the information to contact elected officials. In the case of Pennsylvania, the elected officials were the sheriffs, and that shows the power of grassroots because they heard from people who lived in their counties. A lot of people contacting their elected officials does work. Same thing in Louisiana. We put a lot of resources down there. We have a state director in Louisiana, sort of my counterpart, and he put out some alerts, motivated our members down there. And Louisiana, specifically New Orleans, backed down from using the pandemic as an excuse to ban the sale of guns. Now there's a bill moving through the legislature in Louisiana to take that power away from localities so they don't do it again. I thought this was settled after Katrina because there were some laws passed to prevent gun confiscation. They didn't confiscate, but they stopped the sale. So we'll go after that now. Grassroots activists do make a huge difference. We have, if you get our alerts, you know that it's really easy. We actually use a software package called One-Click Politics. It's more like 3 or 4 clicks, but it's really easy. You click the link in our alert, it takes you to our web page. The letter's pre-written, you put in your name, your email address, your contact info, and you send it in, and the system tabulates it. We sent over 1 million emails to Capitol Hill opposing a provision in the COVID-19 package that would have instituted mail-in ballots nationwide. So instead of each state making their own election law, Nancy Pelosi wanted to make a national election law. And she could defend it all she wants, but elections need to be administered locally because local officials really do know who lives in their cities and towns, and they're going to cut out, fraudulent voting. We believe mail-in ballots are one of the biggest threats to voter fraud. They had that up in Maine.
Yeah, I know. The whole thing.
And it seems to be the mail-in ballots always favor the anti-gun Democrats. Our side says, one man, one woman, one vote, and we follow the rules. And their side says, one man, one dead woman, one dead, and one person votes like 6 times. We rallied the troops again. We use our email alert system. We get the people going. We got over 1 million emails going in. That's a lot of email. People will ask me, whether I'm in Massachusetts or some other state that's less than perfect on guns, they'll say, well, if I send a letter to Elizabeth Warren, she doesn't really care. No, she doesn't care, but she does. And the reason she does is because when senators from other states that are purplish and swing hear from a lot of constituents and they go and say, I can't vote for this, I'm getting clobbered, even if she gets a much smaller number of emails, she knows she's hearing from people, so the senator in the purple state is probably hearing from a lot more people, so it really does help, and we ask you to take action. I know Elizabeth Warren's never going to vote our way, but she needs to hear from our people. It's very important. Right now, mail-in ballots at the national level is a dead issue, thanks to pressure. It's definite pressure from the grassroots that did it. I could give you a lot more examples, but I'm not going to take up the whole afternoon. I want to leave you with 2 thoughts. The things we've won would not have been made possible without grassroots activists. We have over 2 million members nationwide, thousands right here in Massachusetts. We'd love to have more, but if you can't afford to join, some people are on a budget, they're laid off with COVID-19, I get it. At least go to our website, sign up for the free alerts, take the action when we ask you to take it. It makes a difference. I don't agree with a lot Barack Obama says either, but he's right about one thing. Elections have consequences. If you don't vote, we can't complain when we're disappointed with the results. I can tell you, we all saw what happened in Virginia. Dave mentioned it a little while ago. We worked very closely with Virginia Citizens Defense League. I understand Phil Van Cleve was supposed to be here, but I guess with the China flu, he didn't make it. Phil and I go way back. He's an awesome guy, solid pro-gun activist. And Phil told me the biggest problem in Virginia was our people didn't vote. They took it for granted. I don't think that's going to happen again. You need to vote, but then you need to make sure your adult children vote, and your friends, and your relatives. But if your relatives are left-wing, like my wife's younger sister, try to tell like the election's a week later or something. Give them the wrong thing. Okay? Don't tell them to vote. But the people who vote our way, you want to make sure they're registered. Every state has different deadlines and timetables for voter registration. Where I live in New Hampshire, you can walk in and say, hey, I live here, I'd like to vote. Same day registration. A lot of states don't have that. Some states have like a 60-day window. Some states have a 30. So you need to know the rules in Massachusetts. And if your friends aren't registered, make them register. And if they think they're registered, tell them to double check. I've had a lot of people tell me that they thought they were registered and they weren't, and then they couldn't vote. Of course, 2 years later they vote, but it didn't help us that year.
Drive friends to the polls. That way you know they're going to vote. Right.
That's a good point. And when you're driving them, you could make sure they know who to vote for. Give them your list and make sure they have the sheet on who to vote for. So what I'd like everyone to do when they leave here is get another pro-gun person to vote and ask them to get a person, and make sure you get them to the polls in your private automobile come November. And that is one of the best ways you can make a difference. We need to replace the bad ones, or I hate to use a cliche, throw the bums out and clean house. I want to thank everyone again for being here, showing the state, the country, that we are willing to stand up, speak out, defend our God-given and constitutional rights. And I thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so been here for a few hours. We just listened to Jared from Guns and Gadgets speak. It was actually very moving. My battery actually kicked out. I might probably have a separate video. I might reel it in with this vlog. And we had a GOA rep. Actually, for this 7th annual Flag Day rally is turning out to be really awesome. A lot of guest speakers. Let's just keep on rolling, loving the freedom, guys. So guys, it was actually a really good rally. I'm gonna start making my descent back because I'm actually like an hour and a half away from where this rally is. A lot of great speakers. I met my hopefully soon to be Senator Jay McMahon. I'm gonna reach out to him, see if we can get him on the podcast. Very down to earth guy. Jared was mad cool. Didn't really get a chance to speak to the GOA guy. His name's Alan Rice. Saw him, never really got to shake his hand. I get kind of anxious when it comes to big crowds. My first big event crowd here. So, all I can say is, guys, when you have rallies like this, make sure that you are active, you are showing your support. This is how you change state offices, and the sun is blaring today. Now, I think it's gonna be a good enough time as ever to, again, if you're liking this type of content, hope you like this vlog. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm trying not to say that at the beginning of the video, so please everybody, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, the works. Check us out on Tumblr. I'm gonna see you all soon, everybody. Have a good one. Peace.